The knock came at 2:17 a.m. Captain Evan Cross knew that because the outpost recorded everything. On Virel Station, even silence had a timestamp. But this wasn't supposed to happen. The knock wasn't normal. It was too slow. Too heavy. Too deliberate. Like something enormous was standing outside in the alien storm, trying to be polite. Evan lay awake on his bunk for a full 3 seconds, staring at the dim ceiling light as it flickered in rhythm with the storm outside. Rain hammered the reinforced glass walls of the research outpost, each impact sharp enough to sound like pebbles being fired from a railgun. Then came the second knock. Thud. The entire structure vibrated. Evan sat up instantly. "Okay," he muttered. "That's not weather." The thermal sensors spiked. Red warnings flashed across the wall panel beside his bed. Lifeform detected, massive heat signature. He swung his legs off the bunk, boots hitting the cold floor. The cabin was small, just a command room, sleeping quarters, and a sealed airlock leading to the exterior deck. Standard Frontier Science Station. Nothing here was supposed to survive anything bigger than a day-equivalent fauna. And whatever was outside, was not day-equivalent. Another knock came. Closer. The airlock frame creaked. Evan reached for his sidearm automatically, fingers tightening around the grip. His mind ran through possibilities: storm damage, structural shift, maybe some local creature drawn to heat. But none of those explanations matched the heat signature. The scanner updated again. Unknown species. Estimated mass, 900 to 1,200 kilograms. Temperature spikes, 600 degrees Celsius localized output. Behavior, approaching structure non-aggressively. Non-aggressively? Evan frowned at that. Because nothing that size, with that kind of heat output, should even know what non-aggressive meant. The third knock came. And this time, the door didn't just shake. It bowed inward slightly. Evan stepped back. "All right," he whispered. "We're past the point of polite knocking." He tapped the wall console. Exterior camera feed on. The screen flickered. Static. Then darkness. Then movement. Something enormous stood just beyond the outpost lights, partially obscured by sheets of freezing rain. The storm lights painted it in broken silhouettes, a long, curved spine. Folded wings. A tail that shifted slowly like a living anchor dragging through the mud. And eyes. 2 glowing points staring directly at the camera. Evan felt his stomach tighten. "Okay," he said softly. "That's new." The creature leaned forward. The camera glitched again. Then the entire feed cut for half a second. When it returned, the thing was closer. Too close. Standing directly in front of the airlock. The fourth knock was not a knock anymore. It was the creature placing a massive claw against the reinforced door. Tomb. The metal groaned. A frost layer cracked along the edges. Evan raised his weapon fully now, thumb hovering over the safety release. "Station protocol," he said into the empty room, voice steady but tight. "Unknown contact outside perimeter. Potential class extinction biological." He hesitated. Then added quietly. "And it's trying to get in." The door panel blinked red. External pressure exceeding design limits. The creature exhaled. The sound wasn't a roar. It was warm. Like a furnace being opened gently in the middle of winter. Steam rolled across the glass. And then the door slid open a few centimeters. Not forced. Not broken. Just nudged. Like it was asking permission. Evan froze. Because the moment the gap widened, something enormous pushed its head through. Scales, dark and shimmering like wet obsidian, reflected the outpost lights. Its snout was massive enough to fill the doorway, but it didn't barge in. It paused. Waiting. Watching him. Evan didn't move. Neither did it. Rain poured over its face. Water hissed faintly where it touched the heat radiating from its skin. Then, the creature blinked. Slowly. Deliberately. And let out a soft sound. Not a growl. Not a roar. Something closer to a chirp. Evan blinked. "Are you serious?" he whispered. The creature tilted its head. Then did something that made Evan's entire understanding of survival instincts short-circuit. It wagged its tail. A slow, heavy, sweeping motion that cracked frozen debris off the ground behind it. Evan lowered his weapon slightly. Just a few centimeters. "What are you?" The dragon, because his brain finally accepted that word even if it made no sense, took one careful step forward. The floor creaked under its weight. Then another step. And then, without hesitation, it tried to sit down. Inside the airlock. Inside Evan's personal space. Inside his entire concept of reality. It folded its legs awkwardly, misjudging the size of the room, and ended up half-sitting, half-collapsing forward. Directly onto Evan. Evan stumbled backward, caught between the bunk and the control panel as a ton of warm, heavy, very confused alien creature gently pinned him in place. Okay, no, wait, stop, he grunted. The dragon adjusted. Settled. And then purred. A deep, vibrating sound that rattled the metal walls. Evan stopped moving. You've got to be kidding me, he said softly. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, Captain Evan Cross realized something terrifying. The most dangerous thing on Virel Station. Had just decided he was comfortable furniture. Evan Cross had survived 3 orbital wars, a mining colony collapse, and one very memorable evacuation where the escape shuttle's left engine had exploded mid-launch. None of those experiences prepared him for being used as furniture. The dragon had fully settled now. Not just sitting. Claiming. Its enormous body curled around Evan like a living wall of heat and weight, tail draped across the floor, wings folded awkwardly against the cabin walls. The outpost's structural supports creaked under the strain. Evan remained very still. Partly because movement felt like a bad idea. Partly because every time he tried to shift, the dragon adjusted too, like it was sinking its comfort to his discomfort. Okay, Evan whispered, voice tight. This is not happening. The dragon made a soft sound again. That same warm, vibrating purr. Then it nudged him. Not aggressively. Not threateningly. Just, insistently, like a dog asking for attention. A massive, fire-breathing, multi-ton dog. Evan slowly lifted one hand. If I die, he muttered, I'm filing a complaint with the universe. He hesitated. Then cautiously placed his hand on the creature's scaled neck. It was warm. Not hot enough to burn, just steady heat, like standing near a furnace on a cold night. The scales were smoother than he expected, layered like overlapping armor plates that shifted slightly under his fingers. The dragon froze. Completely still. Evan stopped breathing. Was that bad? He whispered. Then the dragon leaned into his hand. Hard. The entire cabin tilted slightly as it shifted its weight. Evan nearly fell off his chair. Okay, easy, he said quickly. The dragon purred louder. The sound vibrated through the floor, through the chair, through Evan's ribs. It was less like a noise and more like standing next to a running engine that had somehow learned affection. Evan exhaled slowly. You're not hostile, he muttered. The dragon blinked at him. Slowly. Then it licked his sleeve. Evan jerked back. Hey, no, don't, what even is that? The dragon tilted its head again, as if confused by his reaction. It lowered itself further, pressing its chin onto his lap like it had just found the perfect resting position in the entire galaxy. Evan stared down at it. Are you serious right now? The creature's eyes half-closed. Content. Satisfied. Like this was exactly where it was supposed to be. Evan tapped his wrist comm. Outpost AI, status report. A calm synthetic voice responded instantly. All systems nominal. External breach detected but no structural failure recorded. Life form classification pending. Pending? Evan repeated. It's sitting on me. Clarification. Unknown life form is physically in contact with Operator Cross. Yeah, I noticed. The AI paused. Recommendation. Maintain non-hostile posture. Evan laughed once, short and humorless. Non-hostile? It weighs a ton and thinks I'm a pillow. The dragon shifted again, curling tighter. Evan groaned. Stop getting comfortable, he said under his breath. The dragon ignored him. Of course it did. Outside, the storm intensified, wind screaming against the reinforced walls. Lightning flashed across the sky, briefly illuminating the creature's massive wings folded like a cathedral collapsing into itself. Evan studied it more carefully now. Up close, it didn't feel like a predator. It felt young. Not in size. In behavior. It kept adjusting its position like it had no idea how big it actually was. Like it had never tried sitting before and was still learning the concept of not crushing things accidentally. That realization made Evan uneasy in a different way. Okay, he said slowly. You're either lost, or stupid, or both. The dragon opened one eye at him. Evan raised a finger. No offense. The dragon closed its eye again. And then, unbelievably, made a soft huff that sounded almost like agreement. Evan stared at it. You understand me? No response. Just more purring. Right, he muttered. I'm hallucinating. That's what this is. He tried gently shifting his leg. Instantly, the dragon adjusted again, moving its weight to follow him with alarming precision. Evan froze. Stop that. The dragon did not stop. It instead placed its head more firmly on his lap, as if reinforcing ownership. Evan sighed deeply. I need coffee. He reached toward the console with his free hand. The moment he moved, the dragon lifted its head slightly. Evan paused. Don't. The dragon stared at him. Then slowly lowered its head again. Evan blinked. Okay. Good. We're establishing boundaries. He managed to activate the station log. Captain's entry, he said. Unknown life form has entered outpost. Non-hostile behavior observed. Possible imprinting behavior. Possibly insane situation overall. The dragon made a sound, almost like a snort, and shifted again, curling tighter. Evan glared down at it. You're enjoying this. The dragon blinked. And wagged its tail. Again. Evan sighed so deeply it felt like his soul was leaving his body. Yeah, he muttered. Of course you are. A sharp alert suddenly flashed across the console. External transmission received, orbital command. Evan tapped it immediately. Commander Hale's voice came through, clipped and tense. Cross. We've confirmed the energy readings. That thing outside your station is not native fauna. It's a Class 9 apex life form at minimum. You are ordered to maintain distance and prepare for extermination protocol. Evan glanced down at the dragon. It was currently rolling slightly onto its side, exposing its belly like a giant overgrown puppy. You want me to what? Evan asked quietly. Repeat, prepare for extermination. Do not engage emotionally. Do not establish attachment. Evan looked at the creature again. It made a soft whining sound and nudged his hand. Like it was asking for scratches. Evan rubbed his forehead. Yeah, he said into the comm, that's gonna be a problem. A pause. Explain. Evan exhaled. Because the truth was already obvious. I think, he said slowly, it just adopted me. By the time Virel Station's artificial morning cycle began, Evan Cross had not moved from his chair. Not because he couldn't. Because he wasn't allowed to. The dragon had repositioned itself overnight into what could only be described as a full-body containment strategy. Its enormous weight formed a warm, living barricade around Evan's entire workspace. One wing draped across the console. Its tail blocked the exit. Its head rested directly on Evan's lap like it had signed a formal contract for permanent occupancy. Evan stared at the ceiling. This is my life now, he whispered. The dragon snorted softly in its sleep and tightened its grip, if a creature that size could even be said to tighten anything. Then the station alarm chimed. Not an emergency alarm. Was. A priority transmission. Evan reached for the console carefully, trying not to disturb the sleeping apex organism currently using him as a mattress. Please don't wake up, he muttered. He tapped the screen. Commander Hale's face appeared instantly, sharp, clean, and completely unsympathetic. Behind him, the orbital command room buzzed with movement. Cross, Hale said without greeting. We've reviewed your overnight logs. Evan rubbed his eyes. Morning to you too. We're issuing a direct directive. Evan already knew what it was going to be. He just didn't want to hear it. Hale continued, voice firm. The organism at your location is classified under Emergency Zenithreat Protocol. You are authorized for immediate termination. Evan looked down. The dragon had rolled slightly onto its back in its sleep, one claw twitching like it was chasing something in a dream. It looked ridiculous. Harmless, almost. If one ignored the fact it could probably incinerate the entire continent. Evan swallowed. You want me to kill it? It is not a pet, Cross. It is an unknown apex predator occupying a human installation. It knocked on my door, Evan said quietly. A pause. Hale frowned. What? It knocked. Like it was asking. That is irrelevant. Evan exhaled slowly. It also sat on me. Another pause. Explain. Evan glanced at the dragon again. It didn't attack. It didn't even threaten me. It just came in. And then it decided I was furniture. Hale's expression hardened. Emotional interpretation is not scientific data. It wagged its tail. That landed differently. The room behind Hale went quiet for half a second. Then he recovered. Cross, you are alone on an isolated station with a high-risk organism. Your judgment is compromised. Evan laughed once, humorless. You think? The dragon shifted in his lap again, making a soft sound. Hale leaned forward. You have 6 hours to comply. If you refuse, we will initiate remote containment bombardment. Evan froze. You'll what? Sterilize the site. Evan looked down at the creature again. Its eyes were half open now, watching him. Not alert. Not aggressive. Just present. Waiting. Like it trusted him not to do something stupid. Evan lowered his voice. You'd kill it from orbit. We would eliminate the threat. It's not a threat, Evan said sharply before he could stop himself. Hale's eyes narrowed. Cross. Evan paused. The dragon nudged his arm gently, like it sensed tension. Evan swallowed. Request denial of termination order, he said quietly. Hale blinked. That is not a request you are authorized to make. Then override it. Silence. For the first time, Hale looked uncertain. Cross, what exactly is happening down there? Evan stared at the dragon. He didn't have a scientific answer. No data set. No classification. No clear protocol. Just instinct. And something worse. Attachment. I think, Evan said slowly, it thinks it belongs here. Hale scoffed. It belongs nowhere near a human facility. Evan looked down at the dragon again. It yawned. A massive, slow, utterly unconcerned yawn that revealed rows of teeth that should have been terrifying but somehow looked unbothered. Then it stretched. The entire outpost creaked as its wings extended slightly. Evan added quickly, don't let it stretch. Hale paused. Explain that. It breaks things when it stretches. It breaks things? Accidentally. Hale stared. Cross, are you telling me the apex threat is clumsy? Evan hesitated. It thinks the door frame is optional. The dragon, as if offended by the conversation tone, huffed and pressed its head harder into Evan's lap. Evan winced. Yeah, like that. Hale pinched the bridge of his nose. This is unacceptable. You are to prepare for extraction and termination support arrival. Evan stiffened. Support. Strike team arrives in 4 hours. Evan went cold. Wait, no, don't send a strike team here. They will assist you in eliminating the threat. Evan looked down at the dragon again. It blinked at him slowly. Trusting. Completely unaware that orbital weapons were now involved in its morning routine. Evan whispered, it thinks I'm its person. Hale's voice hardened. And you are letting that cloud your judgment. Evan closed his eyes. For a moment, he saw it clearly. A creature so powerful it could level mountains. Currently asleep like a house cat on a stranger's lap. Not attacking. Not hunting. Not even aware of the word war. Just existing. Trusting the wrong species. Evan opened his eyes. I need time. You don't have time. I need more than 4 hours. You have none. The dragon made a soft, questioning sound. Evan gently placed a hand on its head. It calmed instantly. Hale noticed. Cross, he said slowly, step away from it. Evan didn't move. Because for the first time since 2:17 a.m., he realized something terrifying. The base saw a weapon. But he saw something else. A lost animal. A very large, very dangerous, very affectionate lost animal that had decided the wrong human was its home. Evan looked into the camera. I can't kill a dog, he said quietly. Even if it was made of fire and destruction. Even if the entire galaxy said he should. Behind him, the dragon purred again, low, steady, content. And somewhere in orbit. Command began preparing the end of the outpost. The dropships arrived at 9:43 station time. Evan Cross heard them before he saw them. A deep, rhythmic thudding in the sky, too controlled to be weather, too heavy to be anything civilian. The sound rolled across Virel Station like a warning pulse. The dragon lifted its head instantly. Evan felt it shift under him. Not aggressively. Just, alert. Curious. Easy, Evan muttered automatically, placing a hand on its neck. It's just noise. The dragon tilted its head, listening. Outside, the storm had finally begun to thin. Through the frosted window panels, Evan could see the first shape descend through the clouds. Then another. Then 5. Armored. Military grade. Orbital insignia stamped across their hulls like a promise. Evan's stomach sank. Of course they sent backup, he said quietly. The dragon made a soft sound, low, uncertain. Evan tapped his comm. Commander Hale, I see your arrival party. Hale's voice came instantly. Containment team is on site. Do not interfere. Evan stood slowly. That was a mistake. The dragon immediately shifted, rising with him. The entire room groaned as its weight adjusted. Don't, no, stay, Evan whispered. Too late. The dragon stood fully now. Wings unfurling just slightly. Not threatening. Just reacting. Curiosity turning into awareness. Outside, the first dropship landed hard in the snowfield beyond the outpost perimeter. A second followed. Then a third. The ramp of the lead ship dropped. And Dr. Mason Hale stepped out. Not Commander Hale. Another Hale. This one older. Field biologist insignia. Xenological division. He froze the moment he saw the outpost. That's impossible, he muttered into his comm. The heat signature is enormous but the structure is intact. Then he saw the creature. The dragon. Standing behind the outpost window like a shadow made of living armor. Mason Hale went completely still. No, he whispered. Evan tapped his comm. Dr. Hale, I assume you're here to help convince Command not to vaporize my house guest. Mason didn't answer immediately. He was staring. Not at Evan. At the dragon. Then something changed in his expression. Recognition. Fear. And something else. Awe. That's not a house guest, Mason said slowly. That's a bonded sovereign class entity. Evan blinked. A what? Mason took a step forward, eyes locked on the dragon. It shouldn't exist anymore. Evan looked down at the creature. It looked back at him. Confused. Like it had no idea it was being discussed as an extinction-level myth. Mason activated his scanner. The device immediately overloaded. Yeah, Mason muttered. That confirms it. Evan frowned. Confirms what? Mason turned toward him slowly. That thing, he said, voice quieter now, is not a predator in the way you think. Evan hesitated. It knocked down my door. Yes, Mason said. Because it was looking for a bond. Silence. Even the storm seemed to pause. Evan blinked. A bond? Mason nodded. Ancient xenobiology records refer to them as Aurolith drakes. Rare. Possibly extinct. They don't form pacts. They don't form hierarchies. He looked at the dragon again. They imprint. Permanently. On the first intelligent life form they recognize as safe. Evan slowly turned his head toward the creature. Safe. The dragon blinked. Then nudged his arm. Gently. Mason continued. They don't see themselves as dominant predators. They see themselves as guardians. Companions. Evan stared. You're telling me this thing, he gestured awkwardly, this walking catastrophe, thinks it's a pet. Mason corrected softly. No, he said. It thinks you are. Evan went completely still. The dragon made a soft, questioning sound and lowered itself slightly, as if checking whether it had done something wrong. Evan exhaled slowly. That explains the lap situation. Mason actually smiled faintly. Yes. Behind them, the containment team had formed a perimeter. Heavy weapons. Stabilization rigs. Energy nets. Evan noticed. So what happens now? He asked. Mason's expression darkened. That depends on command, he said. As if summoned, Hale's voice cut through both comms. We are authorizing immediate neutralization. Field team, prepare to engage. Evan stiffened. No, wait. But Mason raised a hand slightly. Commander, he said into his comm, I strongly advise against that. Hale's voice snapped back. Doctor, that organism is classified as a planetary-level threat. It is classified incorrectly. A pause. Mason continued, eyes still on the dragon. It is not hostile. It is imprinted. It will not attack unless it perceives threat to its bonded subject. And that subject is Cross. Yes, Mason said. Hale's tone sharpened. Then we eliminate both. Evan felt the dragon shift behind him. Just slightly. Not aggression. Just attention. Like it had heard something it didn't like. Mason spoke quickly. If you fire on it, it will respond instinctively. Not as an attack, but as protection. You will trigger a defensive output beyond anything your strike team can survive. Hale hesitated. Doctor. Mason lowered his voice. It's not a weapon you can point. It's a bond response organism. You don't control it. You avoid becoming its target. Silence. Evan looked down at the dragon again. So what do we do? Mason finally turned to him fully. We don't kill it, he said. We stabilize it. How? Mason looked at Evan like the answer was obvious. You don't move. Evan blinked. That's it. Mason nodded. It's already bonded. Any attempt to separate you will escalate its protective instincts. Evan slowly sat back down. The dragon immediately followed, curling around him again like a reflex. The ground trembled slightly. Mason exhaled. Good, he said softly. It's confirming stability. Evan stared at him. It just sat on me again. Yes, Mason said. That's its definition of safety. From the comm, Hale was silent. Finally, Doctor, you are asking me to accept that an unknown apex organism is currently domesticated. Mason glanced at the dragon. Then at Evan. Then back again. Not domesticated, he said carefully. It's worse. It's attached. The dragon made a soft, content sound. And leaned its head onto Evan's shoulder like it had decided the conversation was over. Evan closed his eyes. I think I just got adopted by a war crime, he whispered. Mason chuckled quietly. Outside, the strike team slowly lowered their weapons. Not because they were told to, but because for the first time in their careers, they weren't sure what they were aiming at anymore. Nobody on Virel Station would ever agree on the exact moment things stopped being a containment operation and started becoming something else entirely. Some said it was when the dragon purred loud enough to knock out 2 communication arrays. Others insisted it was when it gently headbutted an armored soldier and sent him sliding through 3 meters of snow like a kicked supply crate. Evan Cross believed it was earlier. Right around the moment it decided the entire universe was furniture, and he was the only acceptable seat. The strike team still hadn't fired. They stood in a half-circle outside the outpost, weapons raised, visors scanning, breath fogging in the freezing air. Heavy containment nets hung ready in their launch rigs. Energy lances hummed with restrained power. But nobody pulled the trigger. Because the dragon had stepped outside. Not aggressively. Not roaring. Not even cautiously. It had followed Evan. Like a dog following its owner into the yard. Evan stood in front of it, one hand still resting on its neck. The dragon towered over him, wings half open, tail sweeping slowly behind it like a curious metronome. Stay calm, Evan muttered under his breath. The dragon made a soft chirp. One of the soldiers on the left shifted his stance. That was all it took. The dragon's head snapped toward him instantly. Not violent. Alert. Focused. Curious. The soldier froze. He whispered. The dragon tilted its head. And then, it lunged. Every weapon on the field came up at once. Do not fire, Mason Hale shouted through comms. Too late. Except it wasn't an attack. It was a tackle. A full-body, enthusiastic, absolutely uncalculated tackle. The dragon slammed into the soldier like an oversized puppy greeting its favorite person after a long absence. The man went down instantly, buried under warm scales, wings, and what sounded suspiciously like excited whining. Snow exploded outward. The soldier screamed. Then stopped screaming. Because the dragon had started, licking his helmet. Evan blinked. Oh my God, he said slowly. The soldier's voice came through the external mic, high-pitched and confused. It's licking me, somebody get it off, wait why is it happy? The dragon wagged its tail so hard it knocked over a supply crate. Mason Hale stared. It thinks it's part of the game, he said flatly. Commander Hale's voice crackled through comms. Doctor, explain what I am watching. Mason sighed. It's social behavior. Play-based imprint reinforcement. Evan turned slowly toward Mason. You're telling me this thing tackles people like a happy accident? Yes. A second soldier tried to back away. The dragon immediately noticed. It perked up. Evan grabbed its neck instinctively. No, don't. Too late. The dragon bounded forward. Not with malice. With joy. It knocked the second soldier sideways, rolled him gently into the snow, and then immediately flopped on top of him like an oversized blanket that had just discovered warmth. The soldier's muffled voice crackled. It's sitting on me. It's sitting on me again. Evan covered his face. It thinks everyone is a lap, he muttered. Mason nodded slowly. Yes. A third soldier lowered his weapon slightly. Sir, I think it's friendly? That was the wrong word. Because the dragon heard it. It perked up instantly. And wagged its tail harder. Evan stepped forward quickly. Nope, Bad word, don't encourage it. The dragon turned. Looked at him. Then, with absolute certainty, began walking back. Straight toward Evan. The entire strike team watched in stunned silence as a multi-ton apex organism abandoned all tactical awareness to return to a single human like a pet recognizing its owner after 5 minutes apart. Evan raised both hands. Okay, easy, just, slow down. The dragon reached him and immediately lowered itself. Not attacking. Not surrounding. Just, collapsing gently into him like a massive, affectionate landslide. Evan staggered backward under the weight. HFY, do you keep doing this? He grunted. The dragon purred. The sound rolled across the snowfield like distant thunder. Behind them, one soldier quietly lowered his weapon. Sir, he said, confused. Is it done fighting us? Mason stared at the scene. No, he said slowly. It never started. He looked at Evan. It's protecting him. Commander Hale's voice returned, sharper now. Doctor, that organism has incapacitated multiple personnel. Playfully, Mason corrected. There was a long pause. Define playfully, Hale said. One of the soldiers groaned from under the dragon. I'm pretty sure it just gave me a hug and then sat on my spine. Mason didn't even look away from the dragon. Yes. That would be consistent behavior. Evan was now half buried in warm scales, trying not to collapse. This is insane, he muttered. This is completely insane. The dragon made a soft noise and nudged his chest like it was checking if he was okay. Evan sighed. Yes, I'm fine. You're crushing my lungs, but I'm fine. The dragon adjusted immediately, lifting just enough to reduce pressure. The strike team collectively froze again. It listens to him, someone whispered. Mason nodded. Bond response confirmed. Commander Hale was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Less command. More uncertainty. Doctor, he said slowly, you are telling me we cannot safely remove it. Yes. And we cannot safely attack it. Correct. And it is currently incapacitating my strike team by affection. Mason hesitated. Yes. A long silence followed. Then Hale said the only thing that seemed to fit reality anymore. So what do we call this situation? Evan looked down at the dragon, which had now fully curled around him again like a living shelter. He sighed. I think, he said quietly, I got adopted. The dragon purred louder in agreement. And somewhere in orbit, the command fleet slowly began rewriting every protocol they had ever known about apex predators. Because down on Virel Station, the apocalypse had just decided it was a lapdog.